Back to the show with Esther, Jerry and Storm. I'm delighted to say we're now joined by the journalist and former Green politician, Peg Alexander. Hi, Peg, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Jeremy. Hope you're all well too.
Yes, we are. Now, you've been watching a new ITV1 drama, which is called The Long Shadow, and it follows the 5-year manhunt for Peter Sutcliffe, known as the Yorkshire Ripper, who murdered 13 women in the 70s. And let's take a look at the trailer.
At 7:41 this morning, the body of a 28-year-old woman was found in the Prince Philip playing fields. To find out who they are and why this happened.
They don't know who Ripper is. They don't know what Ripper looks like.
To please help us find the person who killed my daughter.
This is only going to get bigger.
I give you my word that I will catch this animal.
Very good.
Well, he was operating in your area, wasn't he, Peg?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I grew up in Leeds. Through all of that, I was quite young, but I grew up through all that, and I remember the times when nobody dared go out. I remember. Do you know what? I actually feel quite tearful talking about it. I remember hearing an announcement of another body had been found in the local area where I grew up, and my sister hadn't come home that night, you know, and she was out. It was just as she ordinarily would be. I actually live really close still to where that woman, Jacqueline Hill, where she was found, and I'm in my mid-50s. It was at the back of a shopping centre in a car park. It's my local shopping centre. I don't think to this day I have ever gone in that car park without thinking about her. It's through us. This city, it's through us. And so watching The Long Shadow has really taken me back. Really taken me back. I've only watched 2 episodes, but it's quite challenging viewing.
It's one of the biggest policing disasters in modern British history because the guy was interviewed, I think, 6 times in his workplace, so many times that his colleagues nicknamed him the Ripper, right? And the name is the problem for you, Peg, I know.
Yeah, so on Friday night, I was actually at the Leeds International Festival of Ideas. I was hosting a discussion. We were talking about why we're so obsessed with crime on television and true crime. And Richard McCann, who features in the very first episode, his mum was Wilma McCann, who was the first victim. He made this really impassioned plea for us not to ever use that phrase, because he was saying when we use these monikers or these names for serial killers, we glorify them, we give them something to aim for. And in fact, there is some evidence to suggest that the notoriety is part of what feeds into people. So he was really clear: call him Peter Sutcliffe, and don't ever use that name.
Now this is where it gets tricky. Esther and I have to confess that we're addicted to watching what would be called true crime, and there's no doubt it's a whole rather ghastly form of not entertainment, but it's viewing. Maybe in a way there is a circus around it now. Or do you think we should stop calling him the Yorkshire Ripper?
No, because I don't think it'll change anything.
What about, I mean, yeah, because John Wayne Gacy in America, who killed 33 young men, put them under the floorboards of his house, is known as the clown killer because he also had a job as a children's clown. Yeah. Now, it's difficult not to have that association. What do you think, Jerry?
I don't watch it because...
But about the name, though?
I don't think it makes any difference because we heard a clip and they're mentioning it anyway.
Yeah, but as Peg has said,
that's what everyone
the victim's son is hurt by it.
Yeah, I can understand that. But, you know, the press invented that name. It's going to stick.
What about, you'll remember a case I followed a bit, and it was, I think, in the 80s, and somebody was killed. It was a young woman, and she was known, I think this is terrible, that she was called the Bakewell Tart, right?
Oh, that's terrible.
Because of her background, and I always thought that was terrible.
Awful, awful. Yeah. That would never happen.
Yeah.
I don't know. The thing is, because if you don't give the person a nickname and you just call them by the name Peter Sutcliffe, now most people are not going to name their children Peter because they're like, oh my gosh, people think he's Peter Sutcliffe. You know, it can happen. Like Adolf Hitler. Adolf is like, you know.
Yeah, maybe in a way nicknames trivialise the crime, Peg. Maybe that's what we come down to.
I think so. And then I think if I could just make a plea, this is still, all these years later, this is really real to me. And I'm actually feeling quite emotional listening to you talk about something that felt really real. You know, out of this city came the Reclaim the Night protests, became a whole movement around women and around our safety. Some of the misogyny in the police, I know we've had a formal apology from West Yorkshire Police, but, you know, we're still dealing with issues of misogyny. And as we know, and as you mentioned, Jeremy, he would have been caught a lot earlier had the police taken a different viewpoint. So do you know what, for me, this isn't something theoretical, right? This is really real about my city, and I don't know what else to say, really. It's just very emotional still after all these years.
I think we're going to end up.
Scares me still.
We're going to watch it, and the gentleman you mentioned, who's the son of, is it Sonia's son? Who you mentioned?
No, it was Wilma's son.
Richard
McCann.
I've met him, and he's an amazing speaker, because obviously he was used to the idea that his mother was one of the so-called prostitute victims. Actually, she's much more complicated than that. We don't really know anything about her background. She's a human being. He lost her very young, and his whole life is about trying to reframe it. So I thank you, Peg, for saying that. Okay, Jerry, different story.
Yes.
Les Mis